Hey there, I'm Valerie, and if you found me, chances are that perimenopause and late diagnosed ADHD has you feeling like your body fucking hates you and has chosen to ignore the discipline, the clean eating, the workouts that used to work when you were fit as fuck and slept like the dead. On this channel, I'm going to share what has worked for me with you. This first series is going to be about alcohol because unfortunately, I found out the hard way after 2 years of trial and error that was the main contributing factor to why I wasn't seeing results anymore. This was definitely not like a root cause on its own. There were a lot of things that go hand in hand after the alcohol was gone, but when I tried to do each of them on their own while still drinking, I saw zero results. I'm sitting outside waiting for my daughter to get out of track practice. So there's baby geese back there. Just a quick background on alcohol. I wasn't like a raging alcoholic. I have no judgment if somebody is. I grew up around alcohol. It was at every family function. We just drank when we got together, drank just because we were doing yard work. You know, it was just a normal thing. I love having an IPA when I'm doing work outside. I live out in the country on 5 acres, and it just fits. So that's how I did things. Now, I have to discuss ADHD in this series because it goes with my perimenopause. And I was late diagnosed, of course. We all were. Those of us who are Gen Xers, they didn't believe that girls could have ADHD. They exhibit much different symptoms than boys. We're not outwardly obnoxious or hyperactive or failing all of our classes or getting in trouble. We're exactly the opposite. The hyperactivity is in our brain. And actually, girls who have ADHD have a tendency to be perfectionists. They do everything very, very well, no matter what it is. They hyper-focus on whatever they're working on. They get good grades. They don't fail anything. They're actually extremely high performers. And that is why I don't consider ADHD to be a horrible thing. I love the fact that I have had it and it has allowed me to have all these interests and to excel in things. Does it get in the way sometimes? Fuck yes, it does. But for the most part, it's a perk. That being said, it's also well known at this point that people with ADHD, I think it's 5 times more likely to be addicted to a substance. Alcohol, some kind of drug. The reason is that those substances tend to help our brains slow down. So the alcohol was a numbing factor for all the chatter that was in my brain. I would have this one main thought that I wanted to do, right? Like something in my head that was really important, but I had all these like little random fucking thoughts, just like sabotaging my one big thought. So the alcohol just shut those little chitter chatter thoughts out and allowed me to focus. Now, medication is supposed to do the same thing. So I didn't know I had ADHD, and also I like the taste of beer. Now, the amount that I drank, nobody would ever consider a problem. But I am very, very much about not placing labels on things. If you feel like alcohol is causing you a problem in your life, then it's a problem. If it's 1 drink or 20 drinks, that is your decision, or your family's. I'll stay out of that part of it. But alcohol was not causing me a problem for a very, very long time. But it started to cause me a problem as I was getting into perimenopause. So what I was starting to feel with alcohol, and this is also known, this is just science, after I would drink the next day, I would have massive spikes of anxiety. Absolutely terrible spikes. And I've never been an anxious person. I've always been an active person, but not anxious. So these anxiety spikes were really almost crippling me because I had never dealt with this feeling before and I didn't really know where it was coming from. Well, after the anxiety would wear off, I would start to feel depression. Also never really dealt with depression before. Unless it was situational, like something happened and I was sad, right? But just this like chemical imbalance of depression where it had no like real reason that I could pinpoint behind it. I'd never had that. So I'd have depression for the next 2 days. And I mean, it was so bad that I would isolate. I would have these like feelings of guilt, even though I'd have a few beers just by myself, not even around anyone. It's not like I overshared or did anything stupid, right? I'm just out doing yard work. So feeling depression, and then I feel self-loathing. I like pick apart everything about myself. I hate myself. The world's falling apart. I'm worthless. These are all feelings that were coming the next couple days after alcohol, even though I didn't drink that much. I, in between, on average, like 3 beers a night. So now weekends, was I probably down in a 6-pack through the day? Yeah, probably so. But I'm not trying to minimize the drinking at all. Like, I think normal people probably don't have 3 beers a night, so I was drinking more than my body needed me to be. Of course, in my mind, I'm making all of the excuses why it's not alcohol. Actually, I don't think I even pinpointed alcohol to be the problem for a very long time. And then when I learned that it probably is the alcohol, I was like, no. That science only works on everybody else in the world. That science doesn't work on me. So, and, you know, it's denial, because I didn't really want to quit drinking. And it helped my ADHD brain, I thought. Not really. I mean, didn't really help. I just thought it did. So in perimenopause, for me personally, my hormones are in normal range, okay? But my estrogen is on the very, very high end of normal, and my progesterone is on the very low end of normal. So even though they're in normal range, they're not balanced with each other. And high estrogen and low progesterone also gives you anxiety. So you take the fact that I was having alcohol and I am getting anxiety spikes from my hormones, and it was crippling. But for 2 years, I was like, it cannot all go back to alcohol, because I eat clean, I work out. And honestly, when I was drinking beer, I really wasn't eating a lot of food. So in my mind, the calories balance themselves out, right? Because this is all in the past, it worked just fine. I tried working out harder. I tried doing more cardio. I tried getting more steps in. I tried fasting. I tried meat and fat only diet. I tried, what was some other stupid meal plans I tried? It was so ridiculous. Anyway, I went through it. I paid thousands of dollars for a trainer. And the only thing I didn't change during this time was drinking beer. I just didn't think that I needed to stop. Meanwhile, my weight is just compounding and compounding, and I have always had an absolutely ripped stomach. Like, been very proud of that all my life. I'm suddenly seeing like all this fat coming on my stomach. I'm getting love handles. I was like, what in the fuck is actually happening to me? You guys, I have a very long history in fitness. I have been in the gym for 25 years, and I'm not talking lightly. I'm talking, I'm a meathead in the gym. I had a state record in powerlifting in 2017, and like, I'm strong and I'm ripped and I'm very proud of it. And boy, it just blindsided me, and I could not stop it. Like, once it started, it just started going worse and worse and worse. And I tried literally everything, and I just saw zero results. None. Let's talk about another thing that alcohol does to you, and it disrupts your sleep. I know people think that alcohol helps them sleep, and yes, to an extent, it winds you down enough. It's a depressant, right? So you'll wind down and you'll probably fall asleep or pass out, depending on how much you drink of what. But I knew that alcohol was not helping me sleep. I already had sleep issues. I was on meds for sleep. And what I was finding when I was drinking was that I was very, very restless. I got no REM sleep. I got no deep sleep. And if I drank whiskey with my dad, because my dad loves his whiskey, and that was kind of our thing when we got together, we'd do a couple shots. I would wake up in the middle of the night, my heart rate would literally be 140 beats per minute while I'm trying to sleep from alcohol. It does not help you sleep. It very much disrupts your sleep. What happens when you don't sleep? Cortisol shoots through the roof. What is cortisol? It's a stress hormone. Where does your body like to store all that excessive stress hormone? Right around your stomach as a big old roll of fucking fat. That's where. And that's exactly what was happening to me. I tried everything else for stress. I mean, I did essential oils. I tried to meditate. And let me tell you what it's like to meditate when you have ADHD. Holy shit. I tried seeing if there was any supplements that could help me lower my cortisol. I tried exercising harder. I tried ditching toxic people, which you should do that too. I left them out of the picture after they were gone. But nothing was helping. It didn't matter how well I was eating. Nothing mattered. My decision to kick alcohol too did not come from my physical, like what was happening to me physically. I still did not believe that alcohol was affecting me physically. I decided to stop because of the anxiety it was causing. That anxiety was no longer worth the short-term buzz that I would get. I get such massive hangovers that I can't drink very much. I get so fucking mad when I'm hungover. It's like such a waste of a day, and it's literally nobody's fault but my own. So I don't drink enough to get hungover. I would just like get to that little buzz where it's like all butterflies and rainbows, and you know, the nice ADHD chatter is gone, but the anxiety spikes were no longer worth it, and the depression that came afterward. I mean, it was severe. So I was like, you know what, I gotta kick the alcohol. This was not a one and done deal. I would go for a week and I'd be like, weekend I can have a beer. Maybe I can just drink on weekends. That didn't work either. And I never stuck to just weekends when I said I was gonna drink on the weekends, because then it's like, I don't know, Monday afternoon just sounds like a good time for a beer. So then it would go back to, you know, like kind of daily. And I just kept quitting over and over again. And I think that I wasn't quitting all the way permanently because I did not have my why sorted out. Like, your why is very important. And I can tell you that weight loss is never going to be, for me, a good enough why to stick to something. Then I stopped drinking all the way for 40-something days. And then I went on a work trip. And I didn't drink at all for the first week. I was there for 3 weeks. Actually, I didn't drink for the first week and a half. And then the whole team was like, come on, you're the only one who never does anything. You're the only one who doesn't ever have a beer. Okay, fine, I'll have one or two. No, that one or two, first of all, because I hadn't drank in so long, I was hungover as fuck the next day at work, and I was not happy. And then that one or two turned into the whole habits back in swing. Didn't take long. And what am I feeling when I'm drinking? Anxiety, depression, self-loathing. It was just, the body's response to this is like, then I started getting like right upper quadrant abdomen pain randomly. And my brain's like, oh my God, that's your liver. Have you pickled your liver off the amount of you drink? Like, you're not drinking a lot at once, but you're drinking enough steady that you're fucking your liver, and it's trying to tell you. And so that kind of scared me into like, okay, I gotta be better about this. So how did I quit? I downloaded an app. It's called Try Dry, and it's free. And I just track every day that I don't drink, and I like to see my streak, you know. I did find though that if I made a great big goal, like 90 days or whatever, and I made it to 70 days and then I drank one day, like I felt like an absolute fucking failure because I didn't hit the goal. So I stopped making goals because, let's be real, if you drink one day out of 70, you have not totally failed everything that you were doing. ADHD comes with a high level of perfectionism in women, and so the one tiny little thing that you think is a failure, you have to really train yourself to talk to yourself like you would your best friend or a family member or somebody that you love. So I would just start back over, leave the goals off, and I'd track. And then I realized one day, I don't want alcohol to be a thing on my mind, like, I'm not drinking today, let me track it. I just want alcohol to be nothing. Like, I don't need to focus on alcohol. Did I have alcohol? Did I not have alcohol? I want to focus on the goals I have and not even consider alcohol. So tracking isn't like a permanent thing. It was nice right at first, because while I was detoxing from the alcohol, my body went through a lot of changes emotionally that I was trying really hard to deal with. So I did track, and I journaled on how I felt on those days so I could look back on it, because I knew it was going to be important to reread when I had a craving for another beer. There are a lot of like resources, read a lot of books, watched a lot of videos, did a lot of research on like the chemical reactions within the body, what it does to you, how it binds to certain receptors in your brain, things like that. And there are a lot of like natural supplements you can use to help mitigate some of the cravings that you have. Back to quitting alcohol. I know this isn't really a lot about how to do it, but I wanted to give some background because I feel like that's important when you're talking about kicking something. I had a real problem relating to anything that I looked up on quitting alcohol, because almost everything was like, I nearly drank myself to death, or I woke up in a hospital, or I lost my whole family. And it's like, I don't have any of those problems. I need somebody with a problem at my level that I can relate to in order to follow along with what they're saying, right? And that was just not one. So it was important to me to talk about alcohol in a way that's like, yeah, you might be a social drinker, or you might be, I'm not a social drinker. I like to drink by myself because I'm a hermit. But you're not getting drunk. It's not making you lose your job or lose your family. But you, like for you, it's a problem. And that's really what I was looking for. And that's what this video is like. No, I was not like a raging alcoholic, but it still was affecting me so negatively at this point in my life. And I'll say it in every video when I talk about alcohol. Did I just one day decide, oh yeah, I'm done with it, and it was easy peasy, and I never thought about it again? No, that's not true at all. I crave beer randomly, quite often actually, and I have to take the time to recognize the craving and sort through, is this going to add value if I choose to go get beer? Everybody's tips and tricks for not drinking beer did not work for me, okay? They say don't keep it in your fridge. I live 20 miles out of town and I didn't keep it in my fridge. If I had a craving for a beer, I'm driving my fucking ass into town getting a six-pack. I don't care. Like, I have a craving, I'm grown, I make my own money, I'm gonna drive into town and buy one. So that whole like, don't keep it in your fridge or within reach, yeah, I mean, I didn't keep it in my fridge because I probably would have been, then I would have been a raging alcoholic. But the whole rules thing that you create, like, oh, you can't have a beer unless you do this first, or fuck that. I'm grown. I make the rules. I'll break that fucking rule if I want to. Like, that does not work for me. So, I really had to get really, really, really in depth on why I wanted to quit, what I saw for myself in the future, how alcohol was going to serve that goal. And that's how I have been able to continue on. When I was not clear on my why, or when my brain got totally muddled, like I was going through a lot of stress at work, I stopped focusing on my why. I stopped really caring that much, and I started drinking again. So it's very important that your why does not get pushed on the back burner just because you have other things going on. And I am bad about that, because if you're anything like me, especially with ADHD, you probably are. Anytime you're doing something, especially for someone else, you put your whole ass into it. That's it. Everything that you have is going into that. So this job that I have, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let work run my life, right? I'm not gonna overdo it. I'm not gonna constantly go way above and beyond. And what do I find? I find myself slipping into this like living and breathing this job. So I had to reel that back in, and that's my own problem. That's nobody else's. I just do it that way. So I have to remind myself, like, okay, you don't have to live and breathe and bleed this role, right? This is a role you get paid for. You have your own goals. Don't forget to keep those front of mind. And it's not always easy to keep them front of mind, but I have a morning routine that I do in order to keep it there. And I have an evening routine. And sometimes it's difficult, but it's worth it because I do have a goal. And I have a couple goals actually. So after I quit alcohol, you hear men talk about like, oh, I stopped drinking alcohol and I just lost 20 pounds. Or like, I stopped looking at pop and I lost 20 pounds. I mean, it's ridiculous. I have never actually lost weight from stopping alcohol. The alcohol was not allowing the other things that I was doing to get in shape, to work. So just quitting the alcohol was not the answer. Quitting the alcohol was the first thing I had to do for these other things that I built on top of it to work. So even though I wasn't drinking a crazy amount, it was still negating all of my hard work that I was doing. So when I say I quit alcohol, it wasn't just like I quit alcohol and I dropped 20 pounds. Listen, I get it. I also love a buzz. I love a beer. And I wish that I didn't have to quit. But in the grand scheme of things and in my big goals, it doesn't fit. So I just focus on other things that I love instead and my why. And I move forward. But when you do quit drinking, your body does still go through a detox regardless of whether or not you're drinking a handle every night or a couple beers every night. And I can tell you that the first week was pretty fucking terrible. And even after that, there were some things that were not great. But I journaled them, and it made it so that I named it. Instead of just having this weird emotion that I didn't know what to do with, and so I wanted to drink, I wrote the emotion down, and I noted on the side, this is because I am not drinking and my body is like kicking this toxin out of my body. So it helped me a lot, and to realize that alcohol actually made me feel that way about myself, because I know that I'm actually a badass. I've done a lot of badass things in my life. So the way that it had snuck in and made me feel that way, totally unacceptable. And I have my goals all over the place, on my phone screen, on my wrist on a bracelet, in my journal that I journal every day in now. And let me tell you, I fucking hated journaling. Hated it. It pissed me off. But I have learned how to calm my mind and do it. Alcohol was not the end-all be-all for weight loss when I kicked it. It was just the very first domino that fell over and caused the rest of them to start falling, and then it started to drop.